OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
Okay, so good morning. Good morning, everyone who's joining us online. We have about 12, I believe. If you would like to participate with this interactive activity from your device, if you have a secondary device like a phone or a tablet, you can join Nearpod. It's on your screen, join.nearpod.com, and then enter the code. That way, you're watching the presentation, and then you can also, on a second device, interact with it. So this is a hybrid session. So a lot of times I'll kind of be directing at the camera at you. So it's kind of like I teach my class. So sometimes I have to multitask. So sometimes I'm talking directly to the people from Zoom land, other times from people in here. So it will be fun. Okay, so it is 10:30. I like to respect everyone's time, start on time. And on time, so good morning, everybody. My name is Francisco Pinedo, and this is Susan Coulter, who will be our monitor, and I'm very glad that she's here monitoring the room and everything. Anything you'd like to say, Susan?
No, I'm just counting.
Okay. So I hope you all enjoyed the first session, and welcome to TDLS. So this first session, and there's going to be a lot of sessions on AI. And artificial intelligence. So this is just one of the many that kind of builds a little bit to what our guest speaker, our main speaker was talking about this morning. So again, give about another minute for people to join on Nearpod. And then I'll put also the information in the chat. Okay, so let's see. For those of us who are on Nearpod, we're going to start with a poll. So and you have a minute, and you're going to describe how do you feel after this morning's keynote speaker. So you'll go ahead and you'll do amazing, great, energized, feel okay, or where am I at? What am I doing here? Okay, so go ahead, and is everyone able to do the? So after a minute, the poll will close.
He wrote it on.
Oh. Okay, so I see about 45% say amazing, great, 35 okay, 6.2, where am I? I know it's Friday. So, okay. So this is an activity I like to start with my students. I do teach a high flex class. So this way, both my students in person and my students on Zoom land, which I call, are doing the same activity. And I'm not doing anything different. So I don't have to prepare anything special for them or special for the class. It's the same activity that we're all doing. Okay. So again, my name is Francisco Pinedo, subject matter expert for OTAN, but also the lead instructor for Soledad Adult School, which we are in Monterey County. And today's session is Chat GPT and Artificial Intelligence. The title says in the ESL classroom, but I do cover a little bit more. We're a small school, so for example, my colleague, she does ESL, but she also does HSC, but the same content information could be related to both, even CTE as well. So in this session, there's going to be a lot of interactivity. I am going to leave space towards the end for Q&As. So at that time, if you have a burning question, you want to write it down, and then we could have a more of a conversation towards the end, which maybe about 11:45-ish, we'll have that discussion. But again, I'll be asking people questions as well. So for those of us who are on Zoom, you could put it in the chat box. For those of us here, if we have a question, We want to make sure that the people on Zoom could hear us. So maybe once we get to the Q&A part, maybe move a little closer or speak a little bit louder so everybody can hear us. Let me just. So the objective for this lesson is you will learn about GPT to improve writing in our students. Again, ESL, but it could also be HSC. I do HSD as well. Using artificial intelligence tools to help summarize information for students, again, for ESL, high school equivalency, high school diploma, and beyond. And just like it was said this morning, what Mr. Marcus said, is that AI is a tool, okay? And I think he mentioned that several times. It's a tool, and like a tool, we're all learning how to use it, especially because it is so new, okay? The agenda cover what is artificial intelligence, how is AI used in the classroom, examples of sites, examples of ChatGPT for ESL, for HSC, and then I'll be talking about Claude.ai, which is a great tool that is used to summarize in key points information, for example, and I'll be using examples from the official HiSET tests that are available online, the pre-test, the sample test, to gather all the information and make key points, again, to help students maybe who that reading is just too much and it'll help it break down into chunks. Again, what I want to drive is that it is a tool. It is not something that's going to take over your classroom, or you're going to let the students just do like, you know, like it was said in the morning, just let them run with it. But I use AI as a tool. I am still the teacher. I still set the rules, expectations, objectives. I just teach them how to use this tool to help them become better writers, better and better readers as well. There's also some math examples that I will be sharing. So first of all, what is AI, or artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence, according to the website state.gov, is the Act of 2020. AI means a machine-based system that can give a set of human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommend or decision influence real or virtual environments. So again, it is not a real person. Some of my students, when I introduced ChatGPT with them back in the fall, they thought, you know, oh, the response I'm getting is from someone. I'm like, no, we have to understand that it is computer databases that are feeding that information to the prompt that you make. So I always let my students know that, you know, this is not a real person responding, but it's a database of systems, a database where the information gets sent out to. AI was mainly designed for businesses, to help with customer service, okay? It wasn't created as a tool for education. We kind of morphed it into education as educators, but we always have to remember that it was designed primarily for businesses. So a family member dealing with their insurance, before it was to call. Now, every time, even when you call, they always refer you to the app and to try to do everything. This is an example of AI, of artificial intelligence, where instead of being on the phone, you are just typing in, it's like a chat, choosing options, and then you're able to do all that. At airports, AI is also used a lot at airports for facial recognition. So if you've flown recently, those of you who flew here, you're noticing that every time there's less and less human interaction and more interaction with machine, that's AI. AI also helps with luggage. So, you know, some of us still have problems with luggage, but AI is used to track and monitor your luggage from point A to point B. Also, it is used a lot for security, where it's detecting people's behaviors in order if there's going to be that person is a threat or whatnot. So AI is used a lot in businesses, mainly for customer service. So we always have to remember that this is not a tool created for us as educators. It was created to help, as it was mentioned in the morning, help people unload a lot of the work that was very repetitive, like answering the same questions for customer service. And using, that's what they would use AI for. Again, it's a substitution to do the work that you might not have time to do, like writing all papers if you have multiple classes, or reading through them, or doing summaries or whatnot. So this is something that you could use as a tool. And 3 reasons where the Office of Education, Technology and Artificial Intelligence and I'll show you that, it's a big PDF that was published last year. 3 reasons to address AI is that, again, AI improves to be adaptable. And that's another key point I want to drive. It's a tool for to become adaptable. So if I have a student who is struggling reading a whole paragraph, using AI, it would chunk it down into smaller bullet points that they would read first and then read the main article. So again, it's a tool. I always like to say it's a tool for adaptation, learning resource for students' strengths and their needs. Again, AI is not 100% reliable. We have to check, double check, and triple check information as it might be biased. And there is a site that we will be visiting where you can see how AI is very, very biased. And remember, that could be very dangerous to our students. So we want to make sure that we let them know that the information here is not always 100% or maybe even 75% accurate. There still has to be that part where we as educators have to teach our students that whatever is there, you still have to do a little bit of research and find reliable sources. And again, at large scale, the use of AI in education can have a negative effect because let's say we were to set up a curriculum only on AI, it would go so fast that the student would be left behind probably from the first step. So we have to remember that for educators, we have to use AI not just as the only thing in our classroom or in our program, but use it little by little and then be going along with teachers as we're getting educated about AI, transmitting that to our students and letting them know that, no, you will not come into a classroom and it'll be an AI teacher teaching you the whole lesson, because that's what I heard the last time I did a presentation similar. It's going to be a tool that they could use to help them achieve their educational goals, okay? Any questions so far? Yes?
So you said you can use it to help students, maybe if they're struggling to read text, make it bullet points and also summarize. Now, I've had a student in my previous class, she said, oh, well, look, teacher, I typed something in AI and it's written it like this. Why do I need to learn how to summarize or write? Why do I need to learn how to do AI does it for me? So
Okay.
what am I?
Those are some of the discussions we'll save towards
Oh.
the end. Because then that again, you know, there's a lot of, like it was mentioned this morning, it's the whys, addressing the whys of using this. Our main speaker kind of did talk about that. So we'll capture that at the end, towards the end of the session. Okay, because that's a really big question. I'm not gonna be able to give you an answer in a minute, okay? So again, bias in artificial intelligence. So how AI reduces the world to stereotypes. So did anyone see this story on the OTAN website? It was still up last week. No. Anyone? Uh-oh, well, we should be visiting the OTAN website frequently because news stories do change maybe about twice a week. So this was the cover story from February 20 to about the 26th or the 27th, where it's talking about how it's from the rest of the world. So let's see here, so those of you who are in Nearpod, it should open up the whole article. Okay, or it would say click here to open. Okay, so on this one here, you could see how AI generated images are very stereotypical. For example, if you were on AI an image of an Indian person is almost always an old man with a beard. And these are all images that were AI generated, okay? Stereotypical or not?
Yeah.
How could this be a negative impact to our students?
Yeah, just perpetuates this.
Exactly. Then if we see a Mexican person is usually a man with a sombrero that says Viva Mexico and maracas, right?
And tequila.
And tequila. Okay? New Delhi, images of New Delhi, our streets are polluted and littered. Okay, so they're all images. Okay. In Indonesia, food is always served exclusively on banana leaves. Okay? These are all images, and the article is very fascinating because it talks about how AI generates these images. Now, if you've been following the news or social media, you might have heard of the Willy Wonka experience. Anybody heard of that? Mr. Pierce, you want to tell us? I'm sorry, Michael, you want to tell?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Bobby,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Okay, so there was a Willy Wonka experience. It was kind of like Jurassic Quest, if you guys are familiar with that. And it was in Scotland, and there was this business that kind of created this event, and they used generative AI to create these images, like really fantastical images. And actually, their print media had a lot of misspellings, and it was making up words, which I guess Willy Wonka words, if you think about it. But when the ticket buyers, and this is 40 pounds, coming there, it was just basically an empty warehouse with a couple of decorations, very unhappy Oompa Loompas. And, it was just really cheaply and roughshod. And so I think Fire Festival, except with, a candy, I guess.
So, and all the images to promote this event were created on AI tools like this. A lot of spelling errors, a lot of them. I mean, you look at them and you're like, wow, they really didn't even mind to check the spelling. So, but again, it shows you how AI can have a negative impact to the point where people were going to this event and were calling the police because they were so unhappy with the experience and what they paid. So there was a lot of scuffles over the weekend. So again, that is why we have to make sure that when we teach how our students to use this type of technology, that make sure that, we kind of take it with a grain of salt and be like, you still need that human aspect when creating something on AI. Because like I mentioned before, everything on AI are computer databases coming together to give that information to you, but who have information about AI on their site. And then also again, a couple weeks prior to this article, OTAN, following from guidelines from the CDE, had an article about 4 lessons learned about teaching with AI, the teaching AI guidance. So if we look at the first one here, again, if you're on Nearpod, you're able to scroll the information yourself. But on this one here, the Department of Education has a section that says learning with AI, learning about AI. So this information here, again, it's still evolving because we know the world of AI is changing so quickly. Again, as that was referenced this morning. Again, it's talking about considering the bias and the social impacts of artificial intelligence. Utilizing AI in schools and the why.
Sorry.
Talking about accessibility as well. Talking how they use it in college and career readiness. Again, talking about the digital divide and again, so this is actually guidance that is coming from the Department of Ed about AI. So again, it's a nice piece of information to read. Then following that, at the beginning of the year, OTAN put 4 lessons from California's Teaching with AI Guidance, which is the document that I just showed you right now. So on this article, again, a summary of it, it's talking about how AI prioritizes student safety. So again, all AI systems were not developed for schools and don't have appropriate privacy settings. So that's why we have to be very careful because a lot of this information, again, is unfiltered. So might be inappropriate for especially K-12, but also, in adult ed. Teach AI literacy. We talked about digital literacy for a long time, teaching that. Well, now we're we have to teach AI literacy, where some of us are still in the teaching digital literacy phase. Now we're looking at this new one. Again, recognizing AI bias and potential social impacts, and that point is driven over and over again. And then incorporating the community and update tech procedures. So as school districts, we are updating our policies on technology and the use of AI is to also have feedback from us teachers, also from our students and from the community. So making sure that we involve the student voice along with school leaders to establish a great foundation for revising and adding AI policies currently and in the future. Just to piggyback a little bit on this one, a couple of weeks ago, I did make a tech request at my district to install GPT on our adult ed iPads. So it was a back and forth conversation. So it was rejected and it wasn't installed because in their guidelines, there really wasn't anything about adding this type of apps. And then another thing is that the district firewall, I think, wasn't gonna allow us to use it. So those are some of the conversations we wanna start having, because like at this conference, we're gonna learn so much about AI, but then what's gonna be the barrier? Our district's policy, right? So a lot of our students go back to bring your own device, and that sometimes doesn't work. So again, it's important to have these conversations. And even at this TDLS, we were thinking, we should have invited one of our people from the tech department so that they could see why we need to have these type of apps open in our iPads, because they might just see the request coming from me and they're like, oh, that's another app he wants, right? But if they're here in a conference like this and they're hearing how we use it, they'll get educated on it and they'll be more than likely to understand why we need it. So maybe that could be an invitation for next year, is to invite someone from your tech department to come specifically to TDLS, because you'll learn about the whys we need to learn. It took a long time for me to get one of the testing that we do in our laptops or our iPads as well, because they quite didn't understand if we do a paper pencil, why do we need to do it on the computer? But if they become educated on why we use this technology in the classroom, it'll probably be easier to get it done. Okay, so let me close some of my tabs because, okay. So some of the sites that use AI, websites with AI features, and I'm only showcasing 2 because there's a lot of them. One of them is a great site that I like, ck12.org and uscis.org. So these 2 sites use AI, one of them a little bit more than the other. So on the next one here, now what I like about Nearpod when I use it in the classroom, I could have the option of letting my students play the video at their own pace, kind of like for the people on Zoom. Or in the classroom, I can have it set up where I could play it, so I'm gonna try both. So on this one here,
Hello students, educators and parents. I'm Khosla. I am the CEO of CK12 Foundation. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to our newest offering to help every student to get
Because I cut everybody else off.
okay, let's see here.
quality education.
Thanks, Niru. I got it from here. I'm Flexi, CK12's AI tutor. I use artificial
getting-
intelligence
You're not
technologies combined with proven learning methods and
Give me a second.
CK12 materials to help you with your homework and assignments, just like a human tutor would.
You have your volume
Mahi,
turned up?
what are you working on?
There we go.
understand my assignment.
I can help with that. It's as easy as that. By the way, while
Okay, we'll just watch it. You get the point. So sometimes as teachers, we have to improvise. So here, with the use of AI, you're able to do some of the things on has anyone looked at ck12.org? It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It now has also kind of like a tutoring with AI. So here, you're able to see how, for example, creating, regenerating ideas, making them simpler, making them more detailed for writing, for example. So many times we tell our students, write us a paragraph, give us more examples. So within CK12, the AI is able to give those recommendations as well. So the video kind of goes on to say how CK12 uses artificial intelligence to help students. And there's a lot of academic subjects. For example, in math. Okay, so again, this is a great site where you could see how AI is really used effectively in the classroom or to teach a course. So again, there goes Lexi talking about how and then again, we have to remember though, we will still need the teacher to help the student, with their actual work. This is just a tool to help them. This is not going to be, oh, there it is. I'm just going to copy it and paste it, because what AI writes and what our student writes is like this. I know my students writing. I think you do too. Okay. So if you start seeing words that are like, and then you ask them to read them and ask them, well, what does that word mean? Oh, I don't know, teacher. It was something done with this. So the next one is Emma with the USCIS. Now, Emma's a little bit more, how should I say this? It's been around a little bit longer than Flexi, but still, it's kind of the same concept where people who have questions about their USCIS status, N400 application or whatnot, they use AI and it directs them to exactly where that information is at. On some points, kind of like the first example that I showed about customer service, AI couldn't figure out the answer. So it said, let me connect you with a live person. So we would see how, so then that customer service person would know, what is the problem, what is the prompt, and they'll be able to help more efficiently. So with Emma, let me try to make it sure so that you could play it from your device. Hopefully that'll.
It used to be and it still is in some cases, where you go to a chat for information and there won't be any connection. It's just, that's it.
Yes, so that was exactly. So quite a few years before this, you would just type in like prompts and it would just give you a link, and that's it. Now they actually have that connection where like, well, maybe this is not going to help you. So now we're going to transfer you to an actual person. So, and yes, you're right. A lot of times we've heard a lot of the airlines with glitches, and they say, oh, go on the app and then, figured I just had a friend who shared an experience how they were able to rebook their flight back from Hawaii here without talking to somebody on a phone. It was all used on the app using AI, and she was like, even though her whole family flew on separate planes practically, but they were able to make it back safely to San Jose. I know, poor Anna. So on this one here, I believe you have the power to play the video. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and play it. On Zoom as well, if you're on Nearpod, you could go ahead and play the video.
There are also captions.
Yes, they are. They are captions. Instead of on this one.
You try turning off the sound of the mic, and what happens is you turn it off for everybody. Sorry, pop up. I quickly figured that one out.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for time's sake, we saw the video, we saw all of it, it was great. So then there you can see examples of how AI is used for, like in this case, the USCIS for customer service, and on the other one, how it's used in an educational setting. So on this one, AI tools for adaptability. So again, I drive that point a lot. It's for adaptability. And I know at the last conference, there was a lot of not pushback, but there was a lot of questioning, like, should we allow this in the classroom? Is this cheating? If we backtrack to when the calculator was invented, and it was brought into the classroom, what were some of the,
Oh, well, I remember like when I was going through high school and people had a calculator and we had they passed a law, I think it was a law that you could have it now on the STAR test or whatever test it was. You had students that did not understand the basic concepts, but knew how to press a button, making calculations, passing tests. And it was another way of, teachers were saying, well, it's another way of, you're teaching to the test or you're allowing students that don't understand something to advance. And I would say, and then I also was in class with a lot of students. They had basic video games on their graphing calculators. It was another way before cell phones to ignore the teacher.
okay?
So
So one of the, also when we talk about the calculator, when they say, oh, it's cheating, but again, it's a tool. So now we use it for tests. We even use it for like the HiSET, for example, or the GEG, right? So to see how much it has changed to when educators first said it's cheating to now it's a tool to help you pass this test. Same thing with AI. It is not cheating. It's a tool to help students, for example, summarize main points of reading. We have a lot of adults with disabilities. We know that, we see it, where we give them a paragraph and their mind just goes blank. But if we teach them how to use sites, like I'm gonna show you next, like Claude.ai, where it generates all that information and compiles it into 5 bullet points that it's easy to read, easy to understand, and then we have the student go back and read the whole article because now they know what they are looking for. So that is just a way to adapt to that student's need. Again, like it was mentioned this morning, it's very hard to tailor each lesson to each and every one of our students. But if we give them the tool that they could use and show them how to use it, they would take that power of their education in their own hands. Also helps improve their own writing samples. So sometimes in one of my classes, the students did writing samples, and I'll show some of the examples after I finish the Nearpod. I'll actually go on the website and see some of the examples that were that I borrowed from my students. help students improve with math. You saw that slide because we didn't really hear it from the CK12 where it explains the math problems step by step. But always remember, AI was designed for businesses, not for education. So some of the information might just seem like so far out there, but because we have to remember, these tools were created for businesses first. Now, little by little, they're kind of starting to merge into education. Evolving technology, teachers slowly learn how to incorporate them in the classroom. Trust me, our students are probably going to learn quicker than us. I just started learning about AI maybe about a year ago. Prior to that, I had heard about it, but I kind of ignored it, up until I believe it was the Cape Summit, which was just recently, in October, where I'm like, you know what? I need to get on board with it. I need to join some of the OTAN talks and tech talks and tech talks about Chat GPT and AI. So now to see it, how it's used more and more. How many of you, if you're an educator and admin, use it at your site? Or know some of your teachers that use it at your site? To what extent?
I use it to help me summarize some articles to present to
Okay,
students.
but like on a daily basis, once a week?
At least once a week.
Okay, so good. That's what I kind of do with my students too. Maybe about once a week for a few 20, 30 minutes here and there. But it's teaching them how to use it, where later on I'm, realizing that they're using it on their own as well, which is good. For example, here, tutoring a specific subject for ESL and HSC or HSD. This was something that in one of our books that we use for my advanced ESL class was talking about climate change, about things like that. So one of the students wanted to know more about global warming in easy terms. So you have to remember, like in Chat GPT, you have to be very specific. I can't just explain global warming. This is kind of general. I just explain global warming in easy terms. And then it, popped up this information. Again, you can see it on your screen. It's very hard to see up here. We have to remember again, this, it's a computer. You don't have to say please, or you don't have to say, can you please? Because I won't say who, but a friend of mine types on it, like if it's, a real person, they're like, can you please explain to me? I would really appreciate it. I'm like, that's the computer. But yeah, but sometimes when she would put a lot of those keywords, they were actually embedded in here. And she was like, why is it saying that? I'm like, well, because you're being extra kind to it. So just get to the point. That's what I tell my students. Just get to the point. Make sure it's in terms of, you want to be very specific. You want to drill down to the point so that way you can get exactly what you need. In this example, let me see if I could zoom it in. For explaining for math, I put here, explain how to multiply fractions in easy terms with examples. So then it went and it gave me some examples. And then, well, what if my student speaks another language? So I put in the prompt after I translate into Spanish, and it did it with the same examples. Okay, same steps. Okay, same steps, same procedures as the English one. I was gonna add it. When I go live, I'll show you. I even tried translate into French, translate into Japanese. It would do it. Of course, I don't know French or Japanese, so I don't know how accurate it was. Well, now we have students, a lot of students who speak Arabic. Maybe I could try it with them. So they could give me the feedback. So again, it's a tool that I could use in the classroom, not just for ESL, but for high school diploma, high school equivalency as well. Okay, let's see here. Other functions that we could use with ChatGPT include lesson plans or emergency lesson plans. So I could whip up a lesson plan like that, copy it, email it to your director or your sub, or just have it as in a binder, like I come from the K-12 world, so there's always the teacher has their little box of their substitute folder and all that. And a lot of teachers sometimes, because I used to be housed in an elementary school, now my colleague is, I would see teachers, I'm gonna be absent the next 2 days, and they have like literally a table of books and another table of copies for day 1, for day 2, oh, for this student, or for that student, or for this student that's for during this. And literally, some of the teachers just tell me, I'd rather not be absent because it's more work.
Yeah.
For us, something like this, it takes no more than seconds to create. Kind of like in the morning, they were talking about that song. Oh, I was just blown away by that. Having that song that was created in, like you said, in seconds. We can have lesson plans, resumes for students. We want our students to get a job, but sometimes they struggle with creating a resume, creating a cover letter, generating examples of job interview questions. So some of our students in our district apply within the district and want to know, well, what are some examples of questions that they will get asked? So all these here you could use with ChatGPT. Again, some considerations. Remember, AI is not human, and be very specific. And the data, especially if we want data, is a little bit outdated. With the free version, I believe they said 2021 is where, so if I want something more recent, it's not gonna have me that data. But again, AI is predictable into some way where if I give it the information that I want it to disseminate on newer information, it will do that, especially with Claude. So, or even with this one here, if I want recent information, I could just, copy and paste the article that has data and numbers, statistics, feed it to it pretty much, and then it will generate something because it's generating it from within the text, not from the database. So that's why we have to consider, and even the paid version, I heard the information is what, like last year? Or in 2023?
It was this year, yeah.
Or something like that, but we know how the world evolves 1 second after another, so it's not gonna be very up to date. Again, practice with prompts, and I'm gonna show examples of how each prompt, by me wording it different, I get either better results or not too good results. Language considerations, they might be inaccurate, okay? Fact check data given. Again, information can be biased, and again, this was not created for education, but it can be used a tool in education. Okay, that's something that I always want to emphasize. I don't want you to leave this conference and say, oh, AI is my one fixed solution to everything. No, it's a tool. It's a tool that we want our students to use. We want to teach our students to use. So I'm going to show you some examples of a lesson plan, cover letter, interview questions, writing sample, and a math example. So the first one here, this was before I actually created an account. That's why it says anonymous. Create a lesson for adult education, ESL beginning level for past tense verbs. Because prior to that, I just put create a past tense verb lesson. It did that, but it had a lot of vocabulary that was like high school. But I wanted to use it for my beginning students. So in this one here, notice it gives me the title of the lesson, Exploring Past Tense Verb. It gives me the objectives, the materials, the introduction. So everything like it would a real lesson if we follow, whatever book we follow, curriculum we follow has all that. The only thing, and I tried it, but it didn't quite work. I put, for example, like reference the CASA standards or the I always get that term on the ELPS standards, and it kind of like went haywire. So that's still something I need to, manually put into my lesson plan. I have with the introduction. It has the presentation and the time. So this is like an hour whatnot presentation but I could condense it. I could say, make this lesson in 45 minutes, and then it'll just chop up things and make you a new lesson with the same concept, but with less activities. Presentation, and then it has the practice. Again, verb matching exercise, sentence formation, verb cards. Notice some of them it does say, well, you can't really see it, or if you're on a device, probably you could. But again, there's different ways how you could use it. And then for some of them, I would, when I tried it with my class, the workbook with the book that we were using was about verbs. So I just put workbook or student book page, blah, blah, blah. Because all this here, you could copy it and paste it into another document, which I'll show you a little bit later. You couldn't copy it into, for example, Google Sheets or Microsoft Word, and then make it your own.
Could it come up with the handout itself?
No, but I'll show you how I use that same information to create a handout that would correlate with this. I guess you could, if you put create X amount of examples to fill in, because I did do that activity as well. Then it has the application process, the conclusion, and it even has the homework. So that right there is the whole lesson. So let's say that I'm out, for whatever reason, I could just copy this, email it to the director, or if I know who the sub is gonna be, and they have a lesson. That's whatever duration your class period is. For a cover letter, in this one here, I put, write a cover letter for a custodian position at a school. I am a fast learner and motivated. So then ChatGPT got to work, and notice it has how a letter should be formatted. Name, address, email, telephone number, date, and then who it's going to. And then it starts, dear hiring manager, I am writing to express my strong interest in the custodian position. And notice that here, the student will fill in the blanks with the name of the school or the district, or wherever they're. In this one is because it was in a school district. So here, it will kind of give them an example. Then they could customize it. Because that's the thing, it creates it. Once the student copies it, they make it their own. They would make it their own with their information, swap out words here and there. And then I actually, on the other example, I put make it shorter, because it gave me like a whole 2 pages of a cover letter. That's too much. So I put make it shorter. It condensed it to about 2 paragraphs. Everything in 2 paragraphs. So that right there, again, for hiring people, that's what they kind of like. For HSC writing, for example, this is an actual prompt. So I put, provide examples of passing GED writing examples. And it said, certainly, here are a few examples of GED writing samples for extended responses portion of the GED language arts writing test. So it has the prompt, and then it has the sample response. And then I put here, because I know my students, I know they are not going to write all this, okay? So I put, make it shorter. So I think it made it too short, but you see how you could really customize it. And again, it's not that the student is going to copy this, but when they do their example, they could kind of see like, I could grab this information from here, add it into my paragraph, or I could take this and substitute. So again, it's just examples for writing. Yes.
Just a quick comment. I did that with the beginning ESL, and there were no mistakes in it. And then I said, could you revise for ESL typical errors? And it said, I can't do that because that's, that's not. And I said, well, I'm a teacher. I'd like to use this as an example. And then it did.
Yeah, so sometimes it's very funny because you actually start feeling like you're getting that actual interaction. Interview questions. So these are and I put here examples of job interview questions for a middle school lunch cook in a busy school. So, because some of my students were applying for positions like that. So this one here generated some of the questions they might hear on their interview. Come to find out, there were a lot of them, not worded the same exactly, but similar in content. For example, can you describe your previous experience working in a fast-paced kitchen environment? For one of the students, that literally was the first question. Not like that, but similar to it. And then it's talking about also, for example, prioritizing tasks and managing time effectively. So again, because this, the position was, it's not full-time, it's part-time. So they have to make sure that breakfast and lunch is served by a time. So again, what to do if handle situations where ingredients are low or you run out of food. It does happen. It does happen where sometimes the food runs out. And the head cook and everything like that have to work to feed those students so that they could go back to class. So what to do in that situation? Okay, so it has a lot of real examples that our students can face in an interview. Oops. Let me see here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a pair share activity. So for those of us in person, it'll be with the partner. Those of you on Zoom, you could do it on the chat. So you're going to think about how you can use GPT in your classroom or your program. Share with one or two partners if you're in the room or more. If you are virtual, in the chat box. After about 2 or 3 minutes, we will share ideas on a pad. It's not going to be Padlet, but it's going to be Nearpod's version of Padlet. Okay, so let me set my timer for 3 minutes. So if you're in the room, go ahead and pair share how you could use this. Those of us on Zoom. Okay, so now we're going to have time to share the information because there's a lot of great information in the chat. Some of what I heard here is using to create maybe a study guide for a grammar test. So maybe being very specific on creating a study guide for the grammar content or the grammar section. That's I didn't even think of a study guide, but maybe, and then somebody put for in the GED social studies in the next class, not sure how to use it. So maybe kind of creating again, like creating some of the points that you want to teach, maybe also a study guide form. So now what we're going to do is, for those of you who are in Padlet, we did the think pair share. So now you're going to share your idea. So share the ideas that you discuss with your partners, or for those of you in Zoom land, here, that way we can all see what examples that you have. Okay, so customize lesson plan, homework tutor, use AI generate dialogues for ESL students to practice, use it for evaluations, adjust grade levels of reading. So then on your screen, you could see all what everyone else is writing. What we have on the board in your discussion board. Again, I like using discussion boards with students because sometimes a student in class might not feel comfortable talking in front of a group. This way, the only thing the reason I use Padlet a little bit more is because it's anonymous. So it doesn't have the name of the person. So if there's a mistake, I could go ahead and, look at it and then the person won't know who it is. With this one here, it does have the name. So sometimes, and then as you're reading comments, you notice that there's a little heart. So if I like the comment, I can, kind of like in social media. So I always tell my students, like someone's post. And then what I like also is that, for example, if it's a beginning, like in my beginning ESL class, and I should have brought those examples. Well, I think I have them in my other account. The student might not be at the writing stage just yet. So they could easily draw a picture. So let's say, yes.
But remember, you're seeing the names because you are the teacher, but we as.
Oh, you're not- oh.
We do not
Oh, yeah.
see the name.
Oh, okay.
We do
Oh,
not see
so
the
good.
name.
Oh, so now you're, okay, well, let me switch. See, I'm never a student in Nearpod. I'm always a teacher, so I didn't know that. Thank you, Ms.
So us
Fausto.
students wouldn't be able to see like who posted it or who made a.
Oh,
mistake, but
okay.
you would.
I would, okay, but if I'm showing, okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
get
why.
So, for example, in one of the lessons, with my beginning students, whatever the prompt is, if they are not at the writing stage just yet, they can do a picture of it. And we have iPads in the classroom that we use, and they just take a picture, they could upload a picture. If you want to use, I know you used examples with video, Ms. Fausto's used, examples, she's my colleague with video, students recording their videos, they can record a video as well, or actually audio as well. And we've tried it with audio. Audio sometimes, again, it takes up a lot of bandwidth, so maybe doing it in the classroom might not be the best idea. But you'll get a whole list of discussions. So let's see here. Create a EL co-op. Somebody else in the chat mentioned about how to use it as a co-op. I have tried some examples with co-ops, like on emergencies. I think the example was creating it for like emergency situations. So you can create something like that goes in addition or ties with whatever co-op that we're doing. With us, we do a lot of the workforce readiness one. So that's why a lot with cover letters, resumes, things like that. Use AI to translate from students' language to English and vice versa, okay? One thing we don't want to do is to use AI as a search engine, like Google, because that's what I heard a lot. Oh, it's like Google. No. Google's gonna give you the information. Here, it's going to help you present that information, or it's going to help you be very specific, because if I do a Google search on something, it's gonna be a lot of different sites. Click here, click there, some of it might work, some of it might not. With AI, what it does is if we're very specific, it will create a product for you. Whereas a Google search engine is gonna show you something that was already made. With AI, it's gonna do something, it's gonna make something for you. So always kind of have that, because sometimes it kind of like, even for me at the beginning, like, oh, this is just like Google. Well, I learned that, it's not like that. So great ideas. Let me just look down.
Can you
Okay.
talk a little more about loading up information to present a product? I mean,
Yes, I will once we, I'm almost getting to the end of the Nearpod part, and I'm actually gonna go live, so I'm gonna end the Nearpod. The people on Zoom will still be able to see the screen. I think the screen is big enough that we can all see, right? Okay. If not, I could give you the Zoom link to join from your device. That way you have it like right in front of you. Claude AI. So what is Claude AI? And also, if you read, did anybody read the OTAN article about artificial intelligence? Okay. And this article that was published at the beginning of January, like mid-January, end of January, it talks about and it lists different sites that to use AI with and their functions. Again, one thing that that article does mention is that for now, they're free. Okay, these companies are gonna get smart. They're gonna see that we're using it, and what are they gonna wanna do? Charge. So take advantage of it right now that it's free. It's probably gonna be free for a while because again, it's so new. This one here I really like because it creates summary points from articles. It aids students to break down the information into smaller chunks. But the only downfall is that there are a lot of multi-step. Oh, Claude, I am so sorry, I made a mistake. It's with a D. So C-L-A-U, wait a minute.
You have that.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, there it is. On top, it's right. This one is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, Claude. I don't know. Okay, so on this one here, with ChatGPT, I could just type in my prompt, what I wanted to give me information or examples. With Claude AI, because it's going to take a summary from an article, there are more steps to do. So for example, this here is from the official HiSET reading and practice test. You all know that document is about 20 pages plus because it has the examples and it has the answers. Claude is going to be like, no, that's too much. You want all that information? Hey. So what I did is I just copied that section. I literally highlighted, copied it onto a Word. I use Word, I'm sorry, for those of you who love Google, on a Word document, and I saved it as a PDF. Then I uploaded that document on here, and it created for me a summary from this text right here. So the example on the HiSET talks about, and it's from the reading portion, it says, is inflation here to stay? So the article starts by saying, is inflation here to stay, and so forth. Then it will summarize that whole text, which is about a page, a little bit more than a page, into bullet points. So then as a student, I have the bullet points I need. So now I could go back and read the whole article and kind of see where that information is coming from. So it's making it easy for the student. So the student already knows, these are the key points from that whole page, page and a half, and I have the actual HiSET document that I download. So what I'm trying to drive to you is, for this one here, you do have to have the document saved, either on your computer or somewhere in your computer, because you're going to upload it. And I'm going to show you, we're going to go through those steps as well.
So does it have to be a PDF?
It could be a Word document. I found that PDFs work best. I don't know why Claude loves PDFs, but PDF works well. With Word, it would say failed. If I tried it on another computer, it magically worked. So the step-by-step guide is you select the PDF and you want to save it to your computer. So it does have a limit to how much you can upload, okay? So that's why I always said, instead, if it's 4 or 5 pages of a PDF, but I only want 2 pages, I could just literally highlight the text, copy it, and then paste it on a Google or Word document. If it has image, you know, I don't think it'll bring in the image, but if it does, you could just delete the image and then save it and upload it. Then once you select the part of the summary, if you want to summarize, if it's a big document, upload the PDF or document to Claude.ai, and you're going to tell Claude what to do. For example, I put summarize and make bullet points of the main ideas. Oh, how did I put here? Summarize this report into important bullet points. So you still have to tell it what to do. If you could make sure if you're on Zoom, if you could go on mute, please, if you could mute yourself.
I should be able to do that.
Again, what we. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so going back to Claude, so you can also ask it to generate questions, and how many questions from the text. So someone was saying, I think it was somebody in the chat who put, can we use ChatGPT from the text to generate questions? With Claude, you can. Okay, give me 1 second because I am running a little. We'll wait for questions and answers, please. Okay. So live demo of Claude. Now, again, what I really like about Claude is that it tells you right off the bat, it may display information or incorrect information or harmful information. Always remember that with AI, bias and all this. So sometimes, and with this one, actually every time you log in, it will give you that message. Okay, so always remember, even though it will produce something, you still have to double check before, or even with the student, teach them, you know, sometimes talking about bias. And again, it's not intended to give professional advice, including legal, financial, or medical advice. Do not rely on Claude without doing your own independent research. So there it's telling you a little bit more. I'm pretty sure there was an incident that happened, and that's why they had to put all that in. Okay, so when you sign up for Claude, again, just your email, and then you're going to select Is it for business? If it is, you have to pay. This one is free. We'll go to the evaluations after. This one?
Yeah.
So Claude.ai. So now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to exit the Nearpod. So for those of you on Zoom, you're just gonna see my, like a regular Zoom. Those of you in person, you no longer will be able to see what I'm displaying here on your screen, but if someone has, can we share the Zoom link with them if they want to join us within Zoom? I think so, because Melinda said if the room overflows, to just tell them to join us on our Zoom.
Yeah, they have it on their phones.
All right, so,
It is live.
okay,
Everybody should have their audio off.
exactly. Oh, yes, thank you, Marianne. Everybody have the
Yes.
audio off? Okay. So let me go into chat. Okay, those of you in here, are you able to see the screen? No, huh?
Yeah. Yeah,
No, this one here, I'm showing you the chat GPT one.
yeah.
I was gonna join Zoom.
Okay, okay. So if you want to join the Zoom, because the text is still kind of small, give me 1 second. So I'm gonna end this session on Nearpod. Please stay, those of you online, please stay online. So now you could see my screen. Those of you, yes, those of you on Zoom can. Those of you who are in the room, if you want to join this Zoom, the Zoom ID. If not, we could just follow on the screen, okay? Okay. So let me go with ChatGPT first. So on ChatGPT, for example, this is an example of a cover letter. So I want to be a teacher aide. My skills are organized and good communication skills. So notice here, I didn't tell it what to do. And what did ChatGPT tell me? That's great to hear. Being a teacher aide can be rewarding. You can start by looking for opportunities at local schools or educational institutions, blah, 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 blah. That's not what I wanted. So then I want to be a teacher aide. My skills are organized and good communication skills. And then I put cover letter. What did it do? Certainly. Here's a sample cover letter for a teacher aide position. So notice how I reworded it. I worded it here and I reworded here. Now I really got what I want. And this is what I wanted. Okay. So be very specific. When I typed that, and I did it purposely to just see what it would say, because I had heard it was gonna say something like that. But again, if I'm a student and I see that, I'm gonna be like, well, wait a minute, how is this helping me? It's just praising me, which is good, but this is what you need. You wanna tell it what to do. So then it gives you the examples, and then I could, for example, if I don't like that, I could regenerate. Okay, or if I want to copy it, I could just copy it, and then I could just do paste, and there it is. And then I could save it, I could add, customize the information, whatnot. One thing I do tell my students also is to make sure when you copy, you read everything. Don't use this and then include the bottom part that says, remember, tailor the cover letter to the specific school, because turn it into HR. What are they going to say, right? So again, you have to make sure you check and double check, because that's what it says here. And I'm just literally copying and pasting. Okay. Another example I talked about, let's see. The lesson about verb tenses. So here I put, create a list of 15 fill in the blank sentences where the blank sentences are past tense for students in grade 5. Now, you might say, why am I putting grade 5? How many of us are familiar with CASAs? Okay. And in the CASAS score, there is a document that correlates your CASAS NRS score to a grade level. So that is why I don't tell my student, oh, you're a first grade, you're a second grade, you're a third grade. No. I tell them this is your NRS level, but I use that information when I am creating this. So grade 5, oh my goodness, my mind went blank. That would be like a high intermediate.
Intermediate low, mine's intermediate high. Is a grade
So
six.
it'll be kind of like that, so you could see how it kind of does fit. So on this one here, I specifically said, create 15 field, and again, it doesn't mean that all of my students are at that level, but the majority are at that level. I might have some that are a little bit higher, I might some that are a little bit lower. So I'm able to do it like this, based on grade level. Of course, I'm not gonna copy all this with the prompt where my students would be like 5th grade and you're telling me to go to the community college, right? So, and then here you can see, and I actually practiced this activity with the students and they really liked it. They're like, oh, this is, I'm not gonna say the book that we use, but they're like, oh, this is better than the examples on, and they would show me the page. And I'm like, yes. So then many times what I would do, I would have it and then, so kind of the students, you know, they see my screen and on their iPads, they also see Zoom, because I have a lot of students who are have visual impairments like me or whatnot. So it's easier for them to see it on their device. So I would just put it here on their iPad and they could see and they could write out the whole sentence, or they could just do the answer. Kind of give them the option of both. Okay, so that one is for a worksheet that went with this activity. Now, this activity, notice I did put beginning ESL. I did not put grade level. Okay, so if I want to make it coincide, I want to make sure it's the same information, because the ChatGPT is not going to know what a beginning ESL student, but when I tell it grade this, right away, they're going to know that. Well, the database is not. Now, has anyone read for this conference, the summary of this workshop?
Yeah.
I didn't write it. ChatGPT did. So I put, write short presentation abstract on using ChatGPT in adult education classroom to help adult writers incorporate AI into their writing. So it gave me all this, and I say, no, this is too long. Write more simple. And then from here, I copied some of it and I added my own special ingredient to match it to TDLS. It took me no more than 3 minutes. Melinda's not in the room. Melinda said, fantastic. Because the first time I submitted, there were some, she's like, can you explain a little bit more about this? And like, you know what? I was in the middle of teaching, doing another course on Canvas and this consortium meeting, that I didn't have time. There was a deadline due. I did this 2 minutes later. I got an email from her. Great, fantastic. I'm like, it wasn't me. Well, it kind of was me, but it really wasn't me. So check your, in the course thing for this site, 75% was probably done with ChatGPT, okay? Then, on some of them, for example, some of my students who work within the district, they were talking about an incident of, they wanted to email their principal because there was a dispute. So we tried it. Write an email to my principal about a work dispute with a coworker who said inappropriate comments. So then it had that, but of course, we said, no, that's too long, make it simpler. There it is, okay? And then the student would just copy it, you know, customize it, put the name of the principal, kind of explain the situation, and they would send it, okay? So again, it's not to say that we want them to rely on this, but if they need that extra little push to do something, why not? Okay, what this student did, she actually wrote it out, and then she kind of compared and took some of her ideas out, put some of these here, and you know, kind of swapped back and forth. So this is with ChatGPT. Now, with Claude, this is what I have. So I have my folder here. And then this is the document that I used for the writing prompt. So it was this one here. Is inflation here to stay? So what I did, I just copied from this point all the way to here. And then in the Word document, I just did a paste. And then I did, well, pretend this is the original document, nothing else is written there. I did file, download, and I put PDF. So then once I did that, that PDF document, I added it right here. So notice, this is that PDF. So in Claude, what I did is I added this little on the clipboard, and notice here it says adding content, 5-minute maximum, 5 maximum 10 megabytes each, accepts PDFs, text, CBS, etc. CSV, not CBS. I always get that wrong. So then I click here, and then, oops, not that one. I select the document, I upload it, and then I tell it what I want it to do. So for example, here I put. So then what it did, it takes the original content and then it makes specific points, but you have to be very, very specific. For example, summarize this report into important bullet points. And then I uploaded the Spanish one and I put cuáles son los puntos más importantes de este tema. So it did all that. And then I put a resume, un resumen del artículo, a resume of the article. So again, you could really tell it with that document to do a lot of things. Let's see, maybe I could say, type something like generate questions based on the reading, okay? So that's how Claude AI works. You have to do a little bit more work. So what I find is that if I have a folder on my computer, saved with all that information, I could just copy, paste it on a document, export it as a PDF, and save it in that file. And then, because a lot of the times if I just say, well, I'm gonna upload a document, remember, in this version, there is a limit on how much the sizes. Of course, there are sites where you could compress that PDF and compress, but if I could just copy, paste it, and save it as a PDF, and then feed it to Claude AI, it saves me a lot of time, okay? So this is again how you could use it in the classroom.